Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Marilyn Shannon, and this is the Breaking Free Show. And each and every week we come, I'd say, this is a great show, and I got a great guest, and it's this and it's that, and it's always this and it's that. Today, it's really personal. I've been working on something for almost a year now. Well, actually, a year. And it's a summit for the Opioid People Summit, the People's Opioid Summit. And I've been working on this for a year because I am passionate about helping to make a difference in the opioid crisis all over the world. And so we came up with the idea of doing a summit, everyday regular people who are not always spoken to, who are not always considered in the summits, in the conferences, in the information. I find that a lot of times the information is going to the professional communities, the legal communities, but not the everyday people who are so important for this crisis to end, for the stigma to end. And here you go. I was dedicated to this. And then one day I met this woman, introduced to this woman. And she said to me, Marilyn, it wasn't my doctor that was hanging over me when I was ODing. It wasn't a policeman. It wasn't this. It wasn't that. It was my best friend. And in that moment, my heart sank and I was like almost in tears because I knew talking to people was the most important thing we can do. And Gina said that to me and I was like, yes, that's who we're going to talk to. It's the mothers and the fathers and the sisters and the brothers, the best friend, the neighbor, the janitor in a school, the bus driver who may come in contact with a kid, a teenager who might be using. It can be anybody like that. Maybe it's a therapist who hasn't made it her or his career to understand about opioid addiction. But maybe they come in contact with a family member and they have to spot what is going on. They have to know in their heart what they can do and have the resources. And beyond that, we all need to rid ourselves of the fear so that we can put a light on what is going on so we can make a difference. And so today we're going to be talking to this marvelous, juicy, crazy woman that I absolutely love and just met. And we're going to be talking about the opioid crisis all around. And I'm going to do something I don't normally do. I'm going to promote a lot, but I'm promoting a lot because I'm promoting something that matters. And there's a lot going on. So I just want to remind everybody to please come into our chat. You can, it's live. Put your name under our video and you can be in there. You can ask questions, you can communicate, you can do whatever you like. Also, you can call into the studio whenever you like. If you have a question, if the moment moves you, if you have information, if you just want to know something, 919-518-9773. And we have another way. If you're not by a phone, you can come in on Skype, and that would be Skype voice, not video. So nobody's going to see you. You can remain anonymous. That's fine. So come in on computers and then the number 2K voice. Anytime you want. If you have a comment, you know something, we all need to know it. So please come in anytime you want. So with that long explanation, I'm going to welcome Gina Musa to our show. Hey, Gina.
Hi.
So I just love you.
Thank you.
I mean, I'm going to cry just looking at you and speaking to you because you have meant so much to me in the last few months that our paths have crossed. So I want to thank you for that.
I want to thank you for that. I don't think people meet by accident, but once you said that, I was like, yeah, we don't have those. We don't have those summits. We don't, a lot of it's practitioner and the medical field and rightfully so, and social workers. But I think sometimes we miss the mark on the families who are completely destroyed and the people that are actually in the scenes and in the thick of things. So when you said that, I was like, man, that's a really great idea, and how important that is in my life and in every aspect of what I've been through, as well as what I do today. And I'm so grateful for you. You know that. I text you all the time, which is abnormal.
It's abnormal. Why?
I mean, it's abnormal to text somebody that you just meet and you figure out that this person has passion behind some of the stuff that you've been always passionate about. So I thank you for everything.
Well, you're welcome. And I have found that, I've been in a lot of communities with the work that I do. I do this work, that work, and everything I do is connected. But I find that this community, people who are impacted or who have been impacted personally, whether it's through themselves using and in recovery or struggling with their use, a family member, or it's just somebody like me who just, is just pissed off and
Right.
wants to really make a difference. And I know that there are lots of us out there who have found that we all need to speak up. And this is not going to go away unless we all, come together. And I found, each of the people I've met take a piece, and those pieces are really important. And one day those pieces are going to just connect to the other piece, and we're going to make a difference. So I want you to tell everybody who you are. And you could do it better than me, but I'm going to probably interrupt. Go ahead.
I'll tell you who I am today. So I was thinking I don't know why I was thinking about like what would be the first thing that I say I am. So the first thing that I would say that I am is a mom. I get to be a mom today, which is truly unique for me, because I'll touch on why that is. And after that, I'm a person that is impacted from substance use disorder, completely addicted to opiates, crack cocaine, and I found recovery. And that was not, it's not like that how I said it in like a little sentence, like, oh, this is who I am. So I work at UNC right now. I'm the Rural Linkage and Networking Coordinator. We are starting to have these conversations and realizing that this is not just impacting, it's impacting everybody. So we're working to build a platform for harm reduction, which is prevention and hopefully linkage. It's all interconnectional, right? So I'm also a big harm reductionist. I work with people that are directly impacted, women that are still doing sex work, individuals that are still using, and I'm definitely like in recovery for myself in order to be able to do all these things.
So I want to talk to you about what harm reduction is. Can you just give a really like a little definition of what that is so everybody will understand?
So what harm reduction is working with individuals that are still using, non-judgmental, non-stigma, providing safe sex supplies, Narcan, syringes, cottons, cookers. But what I will tell you is that what harm reduction really is building a relationship with individuals that are still using. I don't know how everybody else views it, but when I was using, I was completely isolated. The last thing I wanted to do was talk to somebody who wasn't using, because we didn't have the same thing in common. And I definitely didn't want anybody coming over there preaching the good gospel to me, right? So it's just building these relationships when individuals are really not speaking to people.
So so let me expand on that a little bit. It's about understanding that people are people, and an individual who is using in recovery or currently using is a person. And if we deny the fact that they're using, we're not going to save a life. We're going to kill people. But if we acknowledge the fact that there is a disease, there is something going on, then we can address the needs of that individual and we can save lives, because they're not going to hide to shoot up. They're not going to hide somewhere in the corner. They're going to come out and they're going to have a clean needle. They're going to feel respected, and they're not going to hide their mental illness or anything else. So that's why this is so important. Right?
Right. Let me expound on that too. And so one
Okay.
of the main things that we do with harm reduction is we teach people to never use alone. I don't know if everybody else has been impacted as hardly as we have with the opioid epidemic, but it's so important for individuals to have, like, to teach people what you were just saying, to not be ashamed. So to use with other people, have Narcan there in case, so they could save a life at the same time. And it's teaching, harm reduction is really taking the guilt and shame off of the fact that individuals are struggling with substance use disorder.
Exactly. And I just want to interject before I ask Gina some more. Just want to tell everybody for the first time. Okay, so the People's Opioid Summit starts this Thursday. It starts with a kickoff, and I'll go into a little bit more detail about that. We'll stream live on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever else Amnon can put it. And it will go from 7 to 8:30. We have guest speakers. We have Darren Prince, who is currently the talent, and he's a talent and sports agent. And some of his talent is Magic Johnson, Chevy Chase. I mean, he has a whole list of them, and he's in recovery, and he's going to be speaking. We have some original music. It's going to be fabulous. And then Friday starts the summit from 8 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night. It's full of speakers, poetry, all kinds of alternative things. And it's virtual, and you can find all of it out on the peoplesopioidsummit.com. Okay, so Gina.
Yes.
Sex working.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about that, please. Because, go ahead. I won't say anything. Just talk.
Okay. So what I'll tell you is, so I'm going to dig a little bit into me, right? So my substance use led me to sex work, and in turn that became the means of security that I had for financial security, and I was that's what I did. That was it, and being in that place, and now you have me using on top of doing something that is completely looked upon as disgraceful, and so. Yeah, I did that for a long time. I did it for a long time. I've shared this before, I think, with my mom, but I remember being in a hotel room and having like plenty of drugs and sitting in this hotel room and saying to myself, I really said, how the F am I going to get out of this room? Because I didn't know anything else but what it was. And so I've tried multiple times I tried to stop using while I was in the thick of things. And so what I'll tell you for me is that when I was doing sex work and I wasn't using, I couldn't do it because one had to feed the other, if that makes sense, right? So in order for me to do this deed, I had to be doing it for this reason, because if not, like, what am I doing this for? And I did it for a long time. I'm not going to say I was the best person out there. I was probably one of the oldest women still walking up and down the street because I didn't know anything about Backpage because I was old. I came from old school using, and it was a horrible, hard life. What I'll tell you today is that, and my mom said this to me, and I have a family that loves me. She said, you could buy a mansion with the money that you have made doing that. And I said, I couldn't do any of this if I wasn't on drugs. So, you know what I mean? Like, I would never do this if this wasn't this. And she was like, do you understand? And, trying to reason. My mom's not one of us. Like, she doesn't understand, but she's a mom that's been through a lot, and she does the best she can. But she was like, Gina, do you know how much money you make? And I was like, yeah, but I'm always broke. I think most individuals that I work with that are doing sex work right now, they could afford a mortgage in Chapel Hill and a Range Rover. The problem is, what harm reduction with me, what I would like to do, what I'm going to start doing, what we're starting is, I would like to work disease model backwards in a harm reduction fashion. So maybe work on the social determinants of health as far as, housing, transportation. It's hard to undo that trauma when the first thing that we take away are the drugs and the security, which is the financial money that we make off that. So right now, when I work with people, I just show up. My only goal for them is to, they're like, Gina, what should I do? Just stay alive. Like, I need you to live long enough to care that you live. Cause that's it. Like, I just need you to stay alive. My only job is to be here is to help. I support you with whatever you're doing. But there's such a low view of when we say sex work, which could be because I have a substance use disorder, there's this stigma. But if I say trafficked, all of a sudden, all this financial funding comes from the sky, which some individuals that are doing sex work don't even realize they're being trafficked, if that makes sense. So.
Okay. So everybody just take a few moments, and I want you to look in Gina's face. This is the face of a woman in recovery who has substance use disorder. This is what somebody looks like. Now, this is the same face, maybe, that it was when she was on the street. The same heart, the same soul, the same human. This is what it looks like. And this is what it can look like. So this is what we want to see. We want to see this in everybody that we can see this in, and to understand that there is a Gina in there.
I want to say one thing because you said that, and I'm trying not to have goosebumps and be all. I always say to people, they're like, some people that are in 12-step recovery, they're like, how do you do this work? Because it's separate from what recovery looks like. And I said, you have to look past the disease and see the person. Because if we look at the actions and what an individual is doing for the substance, we forget that deep inside there's still an individual that is doing this because they have an addiction and they don't know how to stop. But if we look past the disease and see the person, it's a lot different.
And from what I can tell from my period in this world, is nobody would really choose this if they could choose something different.
I'm glad you said that. I was on the phone with my mom and I said, yeah, like at 8 years old, do you think that what I thought was like, hey, one day I'm going to be the biggest sex worker and the biggest drug addict? Like, nobody dreams of this. And the thing about this, Marilyn, in my case, is that you don't know you have it until you know you have it. And you only learn that by doing something like drinking, which is completely legal. And in my mind, I thought I drank like everybody else. The problem is when I drink, I end up in a hotel with a needle in my arm.
So you drink, so you use to do the sex work, and then you have to, and then you sex work to use. Basically, is how it goes, right?
It's the circle, right?
It's a circle. So if anybody out there, you have any questions at all, you know that this is the safest place that you can ask anything you're curious about. I mean, there is no stupid, silly, crazy question, because let me tell you what, I am the queen of those. I come here with my raw, vulnerable, self. And that's how that honestly, it's because I'm like that Gina and I can connect, because she realizes that I don't come here with judgment. I come here, I have some judgments because I don't know.
Right.
But I'm not coming here because I dislike and hate and blah, 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 blah. And if you do, it's because you don't know too. So please feel free to call us at 919-518-9773 or come in on Skype, computers, 2K voice. That's picture, no, excuse me, not a picture, just a voice. And also you can come into our chat, and people like Savannah, hello Savannah, are in there. So please go there and you can ask questions, whatever you like, and just participate with us, because this is our show, your show. Do you have that first picture that we can put up, the eye contact? So I just want to say, email marketing was really key in our building the People's Opioid Summit. And I just want to thank Eye Contact for being such a good partner. And I don't do this very often on my show. It's usually just the show, but this is so important to the show and to what we've accomplished and what any group out there can accomplish, because you need help. That Eye Contact was there. So if you reach out and you use the code Breaking Free, you're going to get some good deals. If you have any questions at all about it, please write me personally at marilyn@marilynshannon.com. I'm happy to help. But you got to stay in touch with your communities, whether they're nonprofit or whatever they are. Eye Contact was there to help. So I just want to say that.
Marilyn, let me ask you something.
Yes.
Who wrote that code down? Codes
they
are no...
did.
You did. Codes
no,
are
they
no...
did. They did.
So it is 2 words for sure?
Well, that's what they put, so that's what we'll use.
Okay.
And if anybody has a problem with sharing that code, if you go there to get a special price, then just let me know and I will personally connect you to eye contact. Okay? All right. So, Gina, how long were you on the street?
Um, I want to say maybe about 13 years.
It's a long time.
13, yeah, my son, maybe I'm exaggerating. Well, I had a son that died, and at that time, I kind of gave up, and trying to think of what year.
So, was that your trigger that your son passed away? I mean, was that a trigger or were you already?
I think when my son died, I had 2 kids that were both born at 1 year old. I had a really horrible marriage with which I participated in, and I had a very abusive relationship. And I think when that happened, I just checked out of life. And it started with pills that were prescribed. And then I was like, oh, these make me, I don't feel anything. So I need to keep getting these. And it grew from that. It grew from a prescription that was given to me. And I didn't realize I was an addict until I was an addict.
So, here's a really good question out on our chat. Gina, what is the part of your recovery that surprises you the most every day?
What is the part of my recovery that surprises me the most? I think the one thing that every day, I don't know about everybody else, like I get overwhelmed sometimes with gratitude. I think the greatest gift that I have is waking up and I'm waking up not sick and being present. You know, the other day I was driving and I was leaving my friend in Fayetteville who brought me to recovery, and I said, I haven't helped anybody. And as soon as I said that, God was like, I need you over here. And so it's just, you know, being able to help people, you know, whatever that looks like. I don't know how helpful I am all the time, but I show up.
Well, every day is another day.
Yeah. I mean, to have a day, right? And to have kids that send me Cash App requests constantly. I mean, I guess that's not a surprise anymore, but to have everything it's just a surprise that I get to be a part of, because I never thought in a million years that I could stop being that person, if that makes sense.
Oh, beyond a shadow of a doubt, it does. Beyond a shadow of a doubt. And that's a good thing for people to hear,
Yeah.
you know,
I
because
didn't,
good.
I definitely didn't. I know that it sounds like everybody says, oh, look at your life. Like, I, I think the one thing that really helped me when I came up here to treatment was the fact that I had no expectations. The only goal that I had was to not go back to Fayetteville and live homeless again. So when I came up, I definitely was like, I didn't think that I would ever have a job. I mean, like, who would want me to work for them after everything I've done, if that makes sense.
It all makes sense. And now we're looking at you. So
Right.
so, you know, so obviously it makes sense.
I,
Right.
mhm. I want to say this, like, this is not done by myself. This is not even, it takes a team of people for me to even be able to dress up and talk to you today. There are people in my life that hold me together in places that nobody would understand. And in my life, I never thought I'd have those people either. So this is not just me. I'm a hot mess when I'm by myself. 300 projects going on and none of it makes sense to anybody but me. So thank God for the people that are in my life.
Amen. I mean, you know, amen for a lot of us,
Mm-hmm.
but I know that it means a lot to you. So there's another question out here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And Gina, I have spoken with women with this disease. They
Mm-hmm.
tell me they have used their bodies to use their drugs. And this is common. And this is common, right?
Absolutely.
They say it is true of guys also. Can you tell us if you know this, and does this help you know that you are not alone?
So, I mean, I think I kind of touched on that earlier. What I don't want to speak to is anything that I don't know personally. So I know that I've worked with men and women, and absolutely, like that's the only way that I could make money to get what I needed. So I do know that, but like nobody's alone. I think that was like the hardest. When I tell you that the hardest thing was to believe that I would be worth it, like to believe that that act didn't scar me for life. And that's not, that I'm not defined by that anymore. And I want individuals to know that, like, that doesn't have to be the ending. I thought it was. I was like, man, how am I going to get out of this? But at the same time, I was like, but I couldn't stop. Every day I'd wake up and be like, today's the day. Today's the day I'm going to stop. And then I'd be like, oh, wait, before I stop, I got to use again. So before I use again, I got to find a date. And before I find a date, I got to make sure I have the dealer on standby. Like, and that was every day. It's exhausting, extremely exhausting. Yeah, I wish I had somebody. I did at the end. That's the person that Dorothy in Fayetteville. But I wish I had somebody, like what I would tell people that are doing sex work is like, you're not alone, and this doesn't have to define you for the rest of your life. It doesn't. It's hard to believe when you're doing it though.
Oh yeah, but that's why we need to keep showing and talking to people like you, individuals like you. We need to just come on out. It's like, that's why we're doing the summit, so that, I mean, Gina's going to be talking, and Gina's going to be the last one to speak, because she's going to be that person who has that kind of, you can do this thing. And, you can do this whether you are that sex worker, whether you are not a sex worker but using anyway, whether you are that parent or that, the sister, the brother, what can you do to make a difference in your loved one's life? What can you do if you don't have if you don't have anybody in your life directly?
Right.
And that's hard to find. It is hard to find somebody on this planet who doesn't necessarily have some connection to somebody who is currently, having issues. It's hard.
Absolutely.
Here's another question for you. What is your primary purpose in life now?
My primary purpose, and this is going to sound cliche to the people that are in recovery, but I won't say it recovery based, but my primary purpose is to be of maximum service to others. So I'm exhausted a lot. I'm tired a lot. I'm sure that I don't show my relationship and my family. But when I figured out that, it's great to have titles and jobs and, but when something happened to me when I realized that everything I went through was in order to help somebody else. And so when I figured out that was my purpose, was to help somebody else, I was like, and before that, Marilyn, I'll just be honest, when I was on the streets and, it's this tough game, like you can't really like anybody because we're all out to get everybody and get as much as we can. And so I came in and I just was like, had a slick mouth. I talked about people. And the minute that I realized that if I poured into other people, that it fixed something inside of me, like, that's it. It's to help other people. That's all I do. And somehow or another, in the midst of doing that, my life has built itself around me.
You've had a busy weekend. You've had a hard weekend, right?
Let me touch on this. So it's not just the weekend. It's been a busy, everybody knows me. They know that I work with people. This is what I do. So
can I interrupt you 1 second? Let me interrupt you 1 second.
Yeah,
so Gina is right here in North Carolina with me. But just remember, what we're talking about is universal, national, it's all over. And there are people like Gina who are doing this work, who can stand out and say, you're not alone. You feel alone, but you're not alone. Or there is help. There is this, there is that. And if you have trouble finding the help that you want, whether you are currently using or you're struggling in your recovery or you are that family member, best friend, and you want resources, please reach out to me at marilynshannon.com, and I will find a way to get you what you need. So just want to let you know. Okay, Gina, go ahead.
Okay, what was that? What were we at? Where were we? I'm sorry. I'm trying to think.
That's a good question. I don't usually forget what I'm talking about.
What is your primary?
I just
Oh,
did
the
that.
weekend. The weekend.
Oh, the
Talking about the
weekend.
weekend. Yes.
Right. So let me be very frank and direct. Um, Not just the weekend. It's been very hard with COVID in place. Uh, Personally, people that I know personally, and I'm just going to speak on opiate because I lost a whole generation for COVID in New Jersey. The overdoses are we've been through a lot. We are losing people left and right. I was on the phone yesterday. Sometimes I have breakdowns because, I mean, if you deal with trauma all day, and I was on the phone and I was really not struggling with wanting to use, but like I said, it takes an army to keep me together, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what I didn't do when I was using. I didn't reach out and ask people, but um, I feel like I'm tripping over bodies of people that I love due to overdose. And what I'll tell you is that I was on the phone with somebody because I was just sad. It's sad and it's hard. And he said, I need you to stay and I need you to be here when people come in and I need you to be here when people go have a return to use and come back. And you have to be a staple. And I just started crying and I was like, I want to be a rubber band. Like, I don't want to be a staple, but he said how important it is that you're still here. But I'd be lying to you if I said that it doesn't hurt. Like, it's hard to watch these lives just gone, right? And what you're having this for is because it's not just losing a person that's struggling. It is directly shattering a family. Whether or not that person was affiliated this is just what happened. Imagine how it goes down that family tree and the people that have been around. And this is hard work. It is hard. And with COVID in place, I don't know if I'm able to actually grieve. So I'll tell you, yesterday it was because it was 4 individuals that were directly affected, directly connected. And I don't know anything else that we go through in this world that is this big of an issue. I mean, other than COVID, COVID has taken over. So and with the racial injustice right now, right? So I said to myself, I don't think I'm able to grieve properly. I'm defensive because of the racial injustice. I'm trying to make sure that I'm still doing my purpose, and yet I am watching individuals just die. It's hard, Marilyn. This is hard. I feel like I'm crying under my glasses, and I don't want to move them, but this is hard, man. Like, these are not, I don't know, like, do we have a timestamp for when we're supposed to go? Because I'm watching 27-year-olds and 24-year-olds who I don't feel like they've had enough life to already go. So yeah, it's been a hard. It's always going to be hard.
And I have no words of wisdom. And I guess that's the thing. I don't have words of wisdom, but I'm taking action.
Okay.
You know what I mean? We're just taking action to do what we can. I am mourning those people, but if I get stuck and freeze, then I won't do anything.
That's why I have a team. I know they get sick of me, but in the midst of working on my project that I'm doing, in the midst of being directly connected to individuals, I can't be Gina by myself. And because I text you, so
but we can't. But we need each other. Nobody's tired of anybody that's doing this. If you're in this, you're not tired of anybody doing this.
No.
I mean, there is no room for tired, and we need. If I can't do it today, then maybe you can. Right. If you can't do it today, then Lamar can, who's on our chat. If Lamar can't do it today, Carol can. If Carol can't, Jody can. Amnon can. All of the people who are working together in whatever capacity. I mean, everybody has to pick up a piece, and I think that's important. That you said it earlier. that you didn't reach out before. I think when you're doing the work of not just on the other side, on the side you were on, but the side you are on now, is everyone that is doing work like this must reach out and must delegate or help people, because if you, otherwise we'll all burn out.
Nobody can
do
be
that.
everything. Can I'll say
Yeah.
this. I mean,
Can I tell you something? Interrupt me anytime you want.
go ahead. Okay, good.
No, you
don't
interrupt
know
me
then.
anytime.
You don't know me then. No, I'm just joking. But let me say this. Uh, Everybody, I can't do it by myself. I cannot do this by myself. And what happens in this work sometimes is that we start idolizing one person that's doing the work, and the pressure that's put on that individual, right? So what I heard you say, and people that know me know I talk about this all the time, we're basically, what we're doing is we're like pulling people out of the river. It's an upstream model, right? So, and this is after trauma, and this is after sex work, and this is after substance use, and we're pulling them out after overdose, and we're working on this end. And I'd love to get to the front of that, right? And find out why people are falling in the river.
Well, can I ask you a question? How did this start?
How did what start?
How did this how did it become a crisis or an epidemic?
Do you want me to be honest, or do you want me to just?
No, I want you to be Gina.
Okay, so the reason that there's a word epidemic, and there's a reason that there's a word crisis on the end of it, is because it affected Caucasian people. The people have been overdosing for years in the marginalized and underserved communities. It just wasn't an epidemic until it hit a certain mainstream of people. And then all of a sudden it was affecting firefighters, and it was affecting children. And all of a sudden we were looking at it not from a war on drugs standard, but oh wait, this might be a problem. And the reason I'm going to touch on that also is because in the work that's being done, if you really look at what the statistics look like, and you sit down at these overdose coalitions and you watch all the maps, and what we're targeting is that population, males and females that are Caucasian, like 55 or however high to like whatever age. But what we're not able to capture is the Black and Brown community, Latinx, Asian community. And the reason for that is, especially when it comes to the Black and Brown community, is because it's always been dealt with imprisonment and punishment. So now we can't get into that community and say, hey, they might be experiencing the same thing we're experiencing, but because we've sent fathers away to prison for 25 years. So it hit a certain community. It's an epidemic, and fentanyl has messed the heroin game up completely.
Explain just quickly what fentanyl is so people understand, because they hear that a lot and they may not understand it.
So fentanyl is a synthetic opioid that's made in China, and what they realized is that you can cut it in your heroin, you can press it in your pills, and what they did was try to stretch it out. Fentanyl is, I don't know the exact numbers, Marilyn, so I can't tell you, but what I can tell you is that it is, I want to say, at least 200 times stronger than heroin. And when mixed with heroin, so what it does though for an individual that uses it is that it hits really hard and it hits really fast, and it's probably the best high they ever had. But the problem with it is that the people that are mixing it with the heroin are not paying attention to the measurements, and people are dying from fentanyl.
I don't know the numbers right now, but it's more than not.
Right.
It's more than not. Before we go on, I do want to. Carol just said she said on the chat. She says she loved your answer before about the men and the women, and she said, "Is this a side effect, and you are in the trap?" That was the trap. She said, "You're glad you're helping others get free."
Thank you.
Before we go on, Amnon, do you have that other slide for me? This is the Thursday night slide of the kickoff. We have the mayor of Raleigh, North Carolina. We have Amanda Lamb, who's a journalist. She's going to be hosting. We have an artist who's going to be painting the evening, painting the night of what she hears from the stories of recovery. We have Darren, who's the agent, who's going to speak about his story of recovery, and the amazing banners. These are banners that are circulating all around that have the beautiful faces of lost souls. And we will be honoring recovery, and we will be honoring those people we have lost. This is not a night to memorialize. This is a night of honoring. So we hope you're going to come. It's 7 to 8:30. We'll stream live in Facebook for sure. So look out for us. Thank you, Amnan. So let's see. I wanted to see if anybody else. Okay, anybody else want to leave us a message on the chat? Please do so. We'd love to answer your questions. And Gina's right here, and she is an expert. So please feel free to ask her whatever it is that you want to ask. She's right here. So, you hear a lot of things about, people going into jail. And you mentioned the community of people, the brown and black community that were in jail. I guess we didn't realize it was an epidemic till it spread to the whites. And so the white folks are taking up a lot of the bandwidth. Mm-hmm. So the black and brown communities are still being lost.
That's right.
Is that okay?
Absolutely. So I speak to this. So I'm starting an LLC with the underserved and marginalized population. And the reason that I'm saying that is because I don't want it to just encompass Black and brown communities. So people with substance use disorder. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I have no idea what it's going to look like, but I feel like we should be in those communities. We should start with, so if I was to tack certain recovery at the end, that's not where, I mean, my goal is for anybody who's experiencing any kind of anything. I mean, we do a really good job though. Let me just say this. Can I shout out just a few things real quick?
Yes.
Okay.
Shout loud, shout loud, shout loud.
When I first started, Jesse Bennett, who was at Harm Reduction, was like, hey, you need to hire this girl. But he had me reaching out to girls when I was leaving treatment. So I started at Healing Transitions with a post-overdose team, rapid responders, who was headed up by Justin Garrity, and Chris Butnick is a huge staple in my life. And now they have these amazing people that work there, Courtney and Alex and Josh, and what I know now, because first when I left, I couldn't let go, right? Because I was like, oh, I love this. But, you have to move and just, so in this continuum, it looks like this in my world when I'm working with people. So I have harm reduction, right? Which is the introduction normally to people that are struggling. And we're doing all this work and you meet the person, and then maybe the individual has an overdose or they're ready for some sort of change. And then you introduce these people that are doing the work in the post-overdose team in the continuum. Maybe they're looking for treatment. There's, and it's just like, it's helping people walk. And the goal of any of this is if an individual, say they have a return to use while they're in treatment, my biggest goal is that they'd reach back out to harm reduction and not isolate. Like I have people who I've worked with who stopped texting because they had a return to use because they felt like they failed me. And I was like, no, you're still alive. There's no failure here. Like, what are we talking about?
So let me just say that as long as a person is still alive, if you're listening to this and you're still alive after 2, 3, 4, 5 times, you're still alive.
Yeah.
If you are the family member of a loved one who has OD'd, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, what? Say it again.
They're still here.
They're still here.
That people
they want to be here. Go ahead.
That's the only way I can do this work. Do you know why? Because if I put expectations on other people, it's horrible. Like, oh, I think, I work with these wonderful clinics. Moore's Clinic is amazing. I love them. I can schedule them on a Sunday. But, and what we all know, in South Lake too, we all know that individuals, it's not a one fits all, but if they're still alive, there's a chance, right? I don't know. Everybody asked me, what was so different that day, Gina? What made you change that day? And I was like, it was hot. It was in June. I was sweating, living out of a car. I don't know. But there wasn't like this therapist standing over me saying, you need to change your life. And I was like, no, I don't know what the difference is. So as long as somebody's alive, like that day could come any day. Do you understand what I'm saying? but we need to keep people alive and without judgment, without expectation of 12-step abstinence, without expectation of anything. Like, the only thing I always say is I need you to stay alive because I can't work with the dead, if that makes sense. You know, it's hard to say that, but it's the truth. So,
Well, I love what you just said, because we don't always, I mean, for you, the window could have been this, or the window of opportunity could be that. You know, whatever it is, it was the day that moved you. It was the day that made a difference. And it's like, I wanted to ask you that question, you know, like, what was it? And maybe for some people there is a what was, but not for everybody. The thing is, as long as you're alive, you're one step closer to staying alive, right? One closer to being for sobriety, one step closer to doing some great work, one step closer to having your children come back, one step closer to living a life of freedom.
right.
One
I
step
don't,
closer. Go ahead.
I have no, like, for the life of me, and there was this lady, that Dorothy, and she has been a staple in my life, but I have no idea why that day was the day. Like, for the life of me, everybody's like, why was that? You know, tell us, Gina, because, you know, there are people, moms, tell us what was it? Did you lose your car? Like, my kids weren't enough for me to stop before that. You know, my family, who I ended up in really bad situations, but I've had a great family. Like, what was it about that day? And it was hot. That car was old, running out of gas. I don't know what it was about that day, but I knew that day that I was done.
But you had the day. You had that day.
Yeah. And you can't have that day if you're not alive. And when we start saying, you need to do this to get your life together, like, if you had told me that that day, I'd have told you, I guess I'll wait another day.
So what is the most, okay, so harm reduction.
Mhm.
So the respect and just acknowledging the fact that if it's not opioids, it's going to be maybe something else.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that, right? So that we're not going to get rid of addiction, but we can get rid of the stigma that's attached, right?
Absolutely.
What else
Absolutely.
can we do?
I think what we can do is we can speak for the people that are not being heard. So the work that all of us get to do is work with individuals that may be still using. So when I sit on panels and I talk to people and they say, hey, and I said, well, did anybody talk to them? I think when we do that, when we do it the other way, we lose a lot of individuals. So we can be advocates, right? And we can teach what best practice looks for individuals, like just meeting people where they are. Everybody says, oh, I meet people where they are. Do you meet them where they are with no judgment and no expectations, though?
No agenda.
Yeah. My only question when I meet people is, how can I help you? And then, if you know me, I'm the resource connector queen. So but I never go in there and say, hey, you know what I think would be best for you? I think you need to go to this program and do, no. I need you to tell me how I can assist you in the work in what you want to do. And some days they'll be like, hey, can you drop me off a pack of cigarettes? Gina, I'm over here. I'm really hot. Can you take me to treatment? Like, whatever it looks like.
You'll do all of that. And you'll do all of that.
Yeah, I'll do all of that, and I'll be complaining at the end of the day I'll be like, man, it's always, I'll do all of that. The people that I've listed will do all of that. A lot of people in recovery will do that because
Gina,
in recovery,
go ahead.
recovery, that's what we're taught is service, right? We're taught to be a maximum service to God and others. That's what the goal is.
So when you're not taught to do that, how do you hold love for people, like, talking to the people, again, the individuals that are not using, but a family member, a friend, or how do you have patience? What will you tell somebody?
Tell them to call Courtney. No, I'm just joking. But it's very, so, this is the thing that comes with family. A lot of parents want to speak to me when I'm working with an individual, correct? And what they want me to do is fix their kid. And so they come to me. And so I have this firm line because I have to, Marilyn, if I'm going to work with that individual, then my focus is here. I have to make sure that family has their own path and their own people, because if not, it's a conflict of interest. If every time I meet with you and the mom says to me, hey, I really think they should be going to IOP group, they need to be here, they need to be there. And when I had one mom, okay, wait, this is the best. I had a mom, this guy showed up on our overdose list. So I went and met him at the mall. His mom was ready to pay, I want to say 45,000 for like a 28-day treatment program. And I met him and his girlfriend at the mall, and I said, hey, how can I help you? Like, what do you want to do? And he's like, I don't want to go there. But do you understand how quickly the family was ready? And he went to Healing Transitions. He stayed for a few months. It's completely free, but parents, my parents included, family included, my parents would have spent millions of dollars if you could fix this with money, if that makes sense.
And it's not about the money.
Oh my God, no.
It's not about the money.
No.
So I know that there's a lot of work being done for, for people who are put into jail.
Oh, yes.
So can you talk about that too? Because, yeah.
So we have the STAR program that goes into most jails. I don't know if we're allowed to go back in the wake, but what they do is they teach overdose prevention. I know there's other programs that are doing the same thing. And also, I know in Durham jail, Alliance has bridged with them, and they have started MAT, which means somebody comes in because it's inhumane to stop somebody from their medication, they can continue that medication. But not only that, I think pre-COVID, they were starting to screen people and see if, they could start medication-assisted treatment for them while they're in jail. And they also have like the FIT program, which is formerly incarcerated transition program. I think that's the listing. And we're working with people because what good is it to have somebody in jail that's not a form of treatment and then come out? And when you come out of jail and you're on probation, have you seen those lists of expectations? I mean, you thought it was, and realistically, I went to jail because I could not stop or whatever. I'm in jail. Some jail is just crazy, but they are doing a lot of work. Buncombe County as well does amazing work up there. I know we're in Wake right now, sorry, but I'm all over the state. I think we're trying the best we can to get in where anybody will let us in.
So the point about this is, and correct me if I'm wrong, that, and from what I've learned, that a lot of this needs to stay out of the criminal justice arena. It's a medical issue. It's a psychiatric issue, not a criminal justice issue. And there's work being done, because what's happening is people are being picked up, they're being put into jail. They're what were you going to say?
So yeah, so I think because drugs were criminalized for so long, that's the answer to things. And I think if we could change the narrative and switch that to treatment, because I mean, a lot of people are incarcerated for substance use disorder, and that's really it, right? It's the action that comes from substance use disorder. And I've been to jail personally, and I've not really received a treatment program while I was there, or the ability to maybe change. I think to change the narrative would be great, to take it from, this individual, look at this individual, to, hey, like maybe jail isn't the best option, let's try it. But I know there's a lot of work being done. I have to give props on that for even like drug court. I've sat in drug court before, and, trying to find individuals treatment as opposed to putting them in jail, which I think is great.
And that's probably what some of this, and that's a big conversation to get into and for another day. But a lot of times what we're talking, when we want to fund additional people to go out into the world, not just defunding the police, but also funding other, medical providers, social workers, who can handle this part.
Right.
This issue when people are being picked up is really important.
If you can find me a funding stream to help everybody, harm reduction treatment would be great. I mean, and there's a lot of programs. I don't agree with every program that involves the police, because I don't know when the police became social workers. but now you want me to interact with somebody who's using. I didn't know he was a social worker. The last thing I want to do while I'm using and doing sex work is interact with law enforcement. But the choice is either I interact with you, I go to jail.
Well, you go to jail anyway.
I'm going to take jail for 100, please, Alex.
Right. Go to jail anyway. So Gina is going to be speaking at our conference, which is going to be amazing. And she's going to have a lot more time than me interrupting. But also we have the psychiatrists who are going to be talking about, let's say, how to recognize trauma in your family, because trauma does cause using. What childhood trauma looks like. We're going to be looking at alternative methods to pain management, which very often can also, if you look at I've read a lot of stories about, young teenagers and young guys who got addicted because they played sports and they hurt their back and this and that. Adults, the senior community, the veterans. We're going to be talking a lot about pain management and other forms of pain reduction so that people don't end up being addicted to opioids. There's going to be we're going to have panel discussions, all kinds of things on Friday. So that is going to be from 8 to 6 o'clock at night. And again, I'm promoting this heavily. We are, because we want people, I want so many people in the seats from all over our country and all over the world, because the more we connect, come together and learn and understand what this is all about, even communication. We have a great guy who Gina has, a great guy, Donald McDonald. He's going to be talking about how we communicate to an individual. So, which, I trip over my words. I'm like, is this the right way to say this? Or is this the right way to say this? Or am I going to offend somebody? Or am I not going to offend somebody? I don't know. And I am learning. So I really recommend you coming. And here's one more slide about it. You got it? So this is for Thursday night. We'll stream live from 7 to 8:30. And we have an amazing lineup. And then for Friday, there's Gina's picture. We have another, we have like 30 speakers. There is something for everyone to learn, to understand, relate, something, and for tons of people to connect with. So look for the peoplesopioidsummit.com. You can look on the website, you can look on Facebook, and you can write me personally at marilyn@marilynshannon.com. So Gina, in any final words, what would you say?
I would definitely tell people to come to the summit as a person, not as whatever your letters are behind your name. And if you don't have letters behind your name, this is definitely the place for you. Just to be a part of, and with everything that's going on in the world, I think it's great to have something that will bring people together. And I want to thank you for having me on. And I have to say hi to my best friend, Gina, because I know she's in the chat and she confused us at first. And other than that, I just really wanted to say thank you for having me on, and thank you for having honest and transparent conversations, because I think it's so welcomed in this place.
Well, you're very welcome. It's, we need to have this in, these conversations, fireside chats all over the place. It needs to become a common conversation, and we need not hide. And then, so here are my books all on Amazon. Thank you. And I'm really excited about the one I've just published, which is In Just One Afternoon, Listening to the Hearts of People Impacted by Opioid Addiction. I've just published it, but I was working on the book for a couple of years. And it's through that book that I became enamored with individuals like Gina, who I wanted to reach out to. And then there's a woman in my book who is in love with someone who was using and shooting up with heroin. And when I first went to interview her, I thought to myself, well, why is she, how in the world would she get involved in a relationship that she already knows this guy is shooting up? But once I met her in like 2 minutes, I could understand why. He was a really good guy, and she loved him, and she was a good lady. And then I met him, and I'm like, oh, he's a really good guy. Oh, and then he uses. It wasn't like he uses and then it was like, he's a really good guy. And I just want everyone to know who people are, who family members are. They are not the cause. They can't fix it. Go ahead, say it.
You said it at the same time, you can't fix it.
Can't fix it. So we will see you all Thursday night from 7 to 8:30. We'll see you at the summit. Please sign up for your ticket at peoplesopioidsummit.com. You're going to see Gina, you're going to see me, and a whole bunch of other people. Gina, I love you.
Oh, thank you. I love you too.
Thanks for everything.
Thank you.
And Amnon, thank you. And everybody out there, thank you for being with us today. This was a real important show. I look forward to seeing you next week. I love you all. Bye.
Thank you.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.